Hello, everyone, and welcome to eLearnChat, where talk is knowledge. I'm Rick Zanotti, and welcome back to our fourth year. If you can believe it, we've been doing this now for starting our fourth year, and joining me just a little bit farther away is Dawn Mahoney. Hey, Dawn, how are you?
Hi, glad to be back. Welcome to September.
Yeah.
And welcome to the new studio, the new opening. Goodness, we're getting big time here.
We've been gone almost 8 weeks.
Yeah, it's
Getting
been a while.
close to. It's been a long time.
I was thinking this morning how strange it was that we didn't even talk to each other during that time. We barely.
Well, you were incognito. I tried to get a hold of you a couple of times. You weren't there. Like, Dawn is on the road.
On the road, yeah. July and most of August I was gone, so.
Yeah.
I guess that would be accurate.
So anyway, here we are, and we're starting off the new show or new season with a bang.
A bang.
With our friend up in Canada, beautiful Victoria, Canada. And if you haven't been to Victoria, it's gorgeous. It's a beautiful place. I think Stephanie Harnett will be on with us today, and a lot of you know her. She's an author. She is a very prolific screener, has done tons of Articulate training, has been around for a while doing a lot of this stuff. She's very good. Just wrote a new book called Learning Articulate Storyline, which I happened to review, and that was fun. If you ever want to see my review, it's on Amazon, and you can also see it on my blog, halfemptylearning.blogspot.com. And don't ask why it's half versus full, but that's okay.
You had a reason.
That's right. Stephanie, how are you today?
I'm excellent, Rick. Thank you for inviting me to your show.
Oh, you're welcome.
And I'm proud to be number one here of the new season.
You are the season opener. It's all on your shoulders, but don't let that get you nervous.
Okay.
So how's it up in beautiful Victoria?
It's always nice here. Well, okay, maybe in the winter months it rains quite a bit, kind of like Seattle type weather. Right. But it's been gorgeous. All this summer has been fantastic, and you can't see behind me very clearly, but my office overlooks a lake. Oh, and nice. So it's absolutely beautiful here all summer long.
Oh, that's nice.
And warm temperatures, 25. What would that be in Fahrenheit?
25. You're probably about like us, maybe 70 degrees.
Yep. Yeah, all week it's going to be really nice. So, yeah, it's great.
Sounds good. Well, Stephanie, you just wrote a new book.
I did.
You did. That must have been fun. How was that experience?
Well, it was actually, when I went into it, I thought, oh, how hard could that be? And as it turns out, Packet Publishing has an interesting process, a very detailed process to writing these books. And they approached me, obviously, to write the book a while ago. And it took probably 8 months to write that. And there was a lot of reviews on every technical reviews as well as editorial reviews on every chapter. And then they go ahead and produce multiple versions of every chapter. So it's just a iterative process that goes on for quite a long time. So when it's finally done and you see the end product, you go, a lot of hands were in the pie to get it to that point, and so they have a fairly good publishing process. But a lot more work than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I noticed there was something like 3 reviewers. I think there were 3 solid reviewers on the credits for your book. That's quite a few.
Yeah, and these are people that are my peers in the industry, so they're also all active on the forums too.
Oh, that's great. Okay. Well, I enjoyed your book. Well, like you said, you've seen my review, and thank you for the check. No, I'm just kidding.
I'll have to pick up a copy because I'm doing more work in Storyline, so I'm anxious to.
Well, what I liked about the book is, Storyline, like all current software, comes with no usable manual.
Exactly.
Or much of anything else other than a couple of pretty good intro videos. And they are good. If you get Storyline and you don't know what to do with it at first, the intro videos are actually really good. Tom Coleman, I think, did all of them, and they're really very informative. They take you further than you might think. But there's really no other help for it, and there's not a lot of exercises or things like that. So I thought your book fit a very good niche that we needed for new Storyline users and just for people who want to get a little more familiar with it. Because as what happens all over the place, people jump into something, but they don't really know what they're doing. They're kind of, because it looks so much like PowerPoint, they think they know it 100%. And then they get into the nuances and they go, a layer? What's a layer? Are we talking about states? There's 50, right? It's a different world. So exactly, that's where people get thrown off. And And master slides, it's so funny how many people even in PowerPoint don't use master slides correctly. So those are good things to have. And the book is really well organized. That's what I really enjoyed about it, that you do a good progression in the book. How long did it take you to get that outline going?
The outline was obviously the easiest part for me because the organization of the book was based on learning. So the approach wasn't based on a reference guide and just going through all the features that are available and what they do. And when you'd use them, there's already a couple books in the market that do that very well. So this particular book is designed for people, well, just like you say, it's a supplement to the software itself. And the outline process is just a learning process. So how would the average person want to attack the software and actually learn it in a way that at the end of the book, you have a really good feel, not for all the features and functionalities, but practically how to use all of those to develop some really good e-learning. And so the outline was based on probably exactly how I'd teach that course if it were in person. It'd be a 2 or 3 day in-person course. I think that format is almost identical.
That's good. Do you teach, by the way?
I don't. No.
No, you don't. Okay.
Yeah, used to for years. I actually taught for, I don't know, probably 8 years, corporate training.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
But that was a while
My
ago.
world. That's what I do, corporate training.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. This is just my little side gig.
Oh, that's a cool side gig.
It is. Yeah, organizational development.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. No, I taught for years in the boardrooms, and then that moved into project management, and then it moved into support, kind of high-end support. And then I just branched off into a specialty area of graphic design and web type stuff way back when. And then from there, everything just kind of evolved and led me to e-learning, just based on the collection of skills and my interests as time went on.
It's fun. The career development, right? And
Yeah.
careering and all of that stuff that's so prevalent in our world. We are curious. That's why we do the work we do. So
Yeah.
learning new things and learning what we're best at in new areas. Perfect.
The curiosity is what it is. Okay, good.
Yeah. Well, you were wondering?
I was wondering.
There's a reason you keep buying stuff like that, new shiny objects. You have a high level of curiosity, Rick.
Yeah. Yeah. My wife keeps saying, you're spending too much. I go, no, I'm not.
I'm spending just enough.
Just enough. Not enough, but just enough.
Yeah, I'm just learning storyline. I'm quite a novice. I haven't gotten into really those complex levels of learner interaction engagement, but I built a course, I guess, earlier in the summer that had to go out to the web and pick up things and videos and embed those and work it all through 2 sets of firewalls, and it all worked when I was done, so I was quite pleased with that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I really like Storyline for its ease of use just basic e-learning, but you can take that up, ramp that up without having to, become a programmer. It's a fairly cool tool, and it works fairly consistently well for almost all levels of interactions and details.
One of the things I really like about Storyline is that it really forces you to think interactively. I mean, it doesn't really force you, but if you have that tendency, it makes interactivity very, very easy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the book says no programming zone or programming free zone, which is really quite true because you're not writing any lines of code. I think that Storyline, you don't even have to go there if you don't want to. It has a whole bunch of features and functionalities right out of the box.
But if you're inclined
for
it, if you want to affect the code.
Yeah, you can take it as far as you want to take it. It's a pretty flexible tool.
And what is the name of your book? Because we've been referring to the book, but we haven't said the name of your book.
Oh, we did. It was Learning Articulate Storyline. We've actually showed a picture of it.
Oh, okay. I don't look at the screen all that much. Sorry.
In fact, here is the book.
Okay.
Here is the book again.
And it is targeted for beginner to novice to early intermediate users. It isn't designed to be a technically advanced reference book because, again, there are those books out in the market already. So this one's kind of coming in between the two that are out in the market and taking a tutorial-based approach. So hopefully, and it's a bit, might be confusing for some people who know me as an advanced user who pushes out some pretty advanced techniques and through Screener and other things that I do. But this book actually is taking that down to a fairly novice level, but including enough advanced tips that it might be useful for intermediate folks as well.
Now, one thing a lot of people don't really bring up a lot is the storyline is really pretty powerful for what it can do. Has some limitations. What do you find some of the limitations are, or kind of gotchas?
Well, there's quite a few of them, and I don't want to be negative on this, but I think that we can expect those sorts of limitations to come out in a version 1 software, and they've released a couple minor updates to address some of those problem areas. But I think that generally speaking, I'm not running into anything that are deal breakers in terms of things that I can't do. What I have run into are things that I need to make a list, and I have made a list of the things to avoid because they're not working as well as they could be working. So I know in future releases they're going to address those shortcomings, but I just use workarounds to some degree to, for example, on a master slide, you could have a character that has a multiple state character. On a master slide, but you can't trigger those multiple states.
Right.
You can only trigger one state on a those sorts of things. They're kind of finicky, but I haven't run into anything that actually crashes the program.
Oh, I don't think we've ever crashed it. Ever.
Yeah.
And we've had a lot of people working on it. I think we've done about 30 of these so far. And yeah, you're right. It's pretty solid, and most people pick up on it real quickly. My only gripe, and it's not a big gripe, it's sort of a medium gripe, and that's the navigation. That the back button is a last visited versus a real back button. Just keep going backwards. That's my only gripe, and I've had talks with Arlen about that. Why they did it this way, I just disagree with that one. I think that should be different, because if you go into a scene, you can wind up into a recursive loop real quickly, going backwards because you keep going back to back to back. But you're in the scene, you're out. You're in, you're out. And then you have to do code on every single button, which is sort of a pain. But that's my only gripe. Other than that, I'm really happy with it.
What do you love? What do you both love about the program? Or the app, as we call them these days?
Stephanie?
Well, there's so much to love about it that I'm still using it as my main development tool, despite some of the shortcomings. Knowing that they're going to be doing another release to deal with some of that stuff, but probably the thing I love the most is, well, obviously triggers, being able to add in that kind of logic and interactivity without any programming. So being able to use triggers and variables are the two key things for me. That enables me to do almost anything and be able to, have the program react based on what the user's done, and that affords a lot of flexibility in courseware design. Just those two features alone. I would say that I enjoy the timeline and being able to manipulate objects on the timeline, that timeline-based development. And the scene layout and working with scenes is also very powerful. At first, it's a bit weird because you're coming from PowerPoint and you're trying to figure out what that is. Not only is a big picture scene that shows you the whole project, but it also allows you to organize things logically and be able to work in smaller segments. So you can work in scene number 1 with 10 slides in it and be able to preview and work on that and work out the bugs without having to preview the whole project. So it allows you to isolate a certain part of the project, but also organize it. So I like that whole scene layout thing as well. Those would be
it's
my
not
favorites.
intuitive, the scene thing, because it has such a visual look, similar to PowerPoint, that when you're using it, you think you're in PowerPoint, but you really aren't unless you've brought in artwork that you've created or a template or whatever. So scenes takes a little while to get used to, but yes, it really does make the difference.
I think where it shines is in interactivity and the ease of use of creating interactivity. And things like markers, they're really clever. They make life easy in a lot of ways, and you can create some pretty sophisticated interactivity that's engaging without a lot of effort.
Drag and drop is
And
easy to
you know what? All the people we have developing it just love it. They just have fun with it. So
Right. It's a fun program to learn and to use, I think.
yeah, and again, I'd say half to three quarters of your learning curve is pretty much done because it looks like PowerPoint. And
Right.
I've heard almost everybody's. I've seen reviews of this, and almost everybody says, I felt like I already knew the program, and I think they were brilliant in that one. That was truly a good decision because it does make the tool easy to learn, and there are some shortcomings. There are some things that, as a quote unquote power user, we'd like to see, but you know what? There's always workarounds, so I don't have too much of an issue with that.
I like that I can pick the same color scheme when I'm moving graphics and items around in PowerPoint. It's the same color scheme in Storyline. I don't have to adjust any of that. One comment that came up in the chat room is true. It's handling fonts well. And I know they're working on that.
Well, right. There are issues when you import. Let's say you're starting from a PowerPoint base and you import. It changes your fonts in some cases. If it doesn't quite recognize the font, it just makes it articulate font, which isn't always what you want. Then you have to redo all the fonts. It's kind of a pain, but that's a small pain.
My biggest struggle there, and this really shouldn't be about what we don't like, but more about what we like,
Sure.
is when it brings it in articulate font, it has this hidden shadow effect that doesn't always show up till it's published. So that's been kind of my little aggravation. And it could just be the laptop I work on, but that I know that I've seen that posted in the heroes out there. Other people are experiencing it as well. But yeah, hopefully they'll expand the library because that would make it even more seamless.
Yeah. So Steph, they don't have a library. There's really no library yet.
Right, and that's another feature that people have been requesting. Certainly, I've put my vote in on that one.
The reusability of objects would be nice.
Yeah, because even though you're working with, let's say, an audio clip, and if you copy that audio clip across a number of slides and not re-import it, it knows it's been copied, so it's not adding to your file size.
Right.
However, it's not listed anywhere, so it would be nice to be able to have a library in your project, like other products do, where you can just have these global assets to be able to draw from.
Also, that would come in handy with replacements of graphics and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then, the PowerPoint side of things, the import of the various items, you're running into quite a few differences because of the way that it works, because PowerPoint uses a point system and Storyline uses pixels.
Right.
And there's a difference between the two. So I think 2 points equals 2.66 pixels. So there's going to be that adjustment when those objects come into Storyline, just naturally. So when I was first doing this, I was looking at it as just a way to get the elements into Storyline, as opposed to getting completely functioning slides from PowerPoint into Storyline, because it seemed to break more often than not. But they're getting better at that.
One thing that I keep telling our people is start your PowerPoint in widescreen. Don't go into 4:3 because most of the storylines tend to run in a widescreen format. And so they create a widescreen storyline, but they have a 4:3 PowerPoint coming in, so it looks really kind of weird when you bring it in. And if you keep PowerPoint at widescreen and you bring it into a storyline in widescreen, then you have a better chance it won't skew as much.
Right, matching your ratios between the products.
Yeah, it gets you closer.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
now, Stephanie, how did you? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Don.
Oh, so some of the chat is, if we don't create or start our creation that we're going to use Storyline for in PowerPoint, there are sometimes things that don't work as well. Do you have any recommendations or ways do you craft all in PowerPoint and then import? I think that some of this is the legacy product, that Presenter and Quizmaker, that you had to start in PowerPoint. So I think that's kind of the thought process behind why people do that. But what recommendations do you have for people that create natively in Storyline?
Well, if you create natively in Storyline, I would still use PowerPoint. And for me, I use PowerPoint in two different ways. I use it to do my initial storyboarding, because I find that to be the fastest, simplest way for me to get those early wireframes out to the client that demonstrate flow and content. And then I also use it as my style guide. So for every project I have a companion PowerPoint file that lists out the fonts, the colors, the themes, as well as all the little design elements that I'm using in the project. And a lot of those design elements I'm actually building directly in PowerPoint. It's easier for me. I don't have to go to Photoshop as often as I used to have to do.
Right.
So I do quite a large of the graphic design original work in PowerPoint, and that's why I have that companion file. I also use PowerPoint for animations. So I'll go through and do a series of motion animations or other things, whatever I'm doing, and I export that out as an MP4 file, movie, and then I bring that into Storyline, and it comes in seamlessly as if it were created directly in Storyline.
That's a good tip. I haven't done that. I do all my graphics work and storyboarding that way, but I don't export as MP4. So that's a good tip, everybody. In the chat.
And that's new in 2013, or the latest version of Office. The other version of Office would only export out to WMV or AVI, I can't remember, and that wasn't very clean. But MP4 works really well.
Yeah, I think they only did AVI back then.
Right.
I haven't tried it. I have 2010, so I guess that's partly why I haven't thought about it. So, but on my Mac, I have the 2011, which is equivalent to the 2013.
Though if you do have the Windows Media Encoder, you could export out in an AVI or whatever else and convert it to an MP4. So that's pretty easy.
Sure.
Or whatever other conversion tools. So it still makes it pretty easy. It's interesting. What got you into e-learning?
Well, I think it would have been, again, a natural transition from the stand-up training I was doing. So I've always been a teacher at heart in one way or another. So whether I was teaching in a classroom or supporting people and educating them through that kind of support mechanism. So it was a natural thing to do. But ultimately what happened was I landed myself at a multimedia company in Calgary, and they were just starting out. And I was taking care of all of their network stuff, because I'm halfly really analytical and technical, and halfly creative,
Halfly.
So halfly. A little bit of both. So I landed in, anyway, I was taking care of all the network and the network guys and setting all that stuff up. I had a network team which was in support of people that were doing multimedia at the time. And I kind of looked at the multimedia side, and once it got onto the web, so I actually configured and set up the first web chat for the Royal Bank of Canada way back when, before these things even occurred in real time. And then through that process, just the dynamic of the internet, the dynamic of social even at that time, and then there's some learning component there. And it all just kind of came together. They started seeing that as well, and I started working on the technical aspects of design and development, Flash, and all that stuff. And that's kind of how it started. And then it just progressed, went more and more into the corporate training, because it aligned with some of the stuff I'd already been teaching in person. So, and then from there, and for the last 7 years, I've been doing this entirely remotely. I haven't actually stepped foot in an office for, over 7 years. So, which is good, which is a great way for me to be able to focus on what it is that I do best, and not be too, taken up by meetings and all that stuff.
You do everything from home.
Everything's done from home.
Nice.
So and I do it all. So I do all the voiceover, all the programming, development, writing, design, all that jazz. And I work with clients all over the world. So we're able to Skype and do phone conferences, and most of the time it's email back and forth. It's fairly clear what people want, and then prototypes are sent to them, adjustments are made, and then the projects continue to develop.
Now, do you work for yourself, or do you work for a company?
No, work for myself.
Oh, okay, great.
Yep. StephanieHarnett.ca, but my company name is actually IceLimited.ca.
Ice Limited. And for those interested, here is the website for Stephanie.
We're both taking a little sip of our beverage here.
And my website, StephanieHarnett.ca, is all done in Storyline as well. It's 100% Storyline developed.
Interesting. I was wondering about that.
So, switching gears back to the book, there was a question in the chat room about how do you recommend a new Storyline user use your book as a reference and so forth.
Well, ideally, if you have the time, it probably makes sense to start at chapter 1 and work your way through, because it is progressive learning. The exercises and the topics get progressively more complex as you move through the book. You don't have to, though. If you already feel comfortable in certain areas, you could probably skip the first 3 chapters if you're good with all the basic editing and hop right into the 4th chapter. So you won't be at a loss, because the exercises that each chapter refers to are available online as well. So you can go online and download the pre-built version of the previous chapter's exercise, so you don't have to start from scratch. So you could really jump in at any point. Remembering, though, that this really isn't a reference book, so you can just kind of flip through and say, well, I'd like to know more about master slides. There's an area that the chapter that covers that, but that covers it in the context of some other topics around master slides. The information is there, it's just not organized necessarily as a reference book.
So you can jump in and jump out as you need to once you have a familiarity with the layout.
Right. Yeah, and I'd really recommend, although it's sometimes hard to follow instructions on paper to do these exercises, a lot of people would kind of gravitate more to video. Lynda.com or even screeners and stuff like that to learn the process visually. But some people also need the paper. So if you actually go step by step and think about what you're doing, it gives you the chance to do that. And you will be creating some very cool interactions by taking the time to do that.
Build your own library.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a bunch
That's
of.
what I do.
Yeah, exactly.
Other questions? I don't have any. Everybody's enthralled, I guess, right now.
And just a quick comment, the book is also available, I believe, there's a Kindle version, right?
They do have a Kindle version
Yes.
up on Amazon, yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
That's what I prefer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the best of both worlds. You can follow the steps, have it written down, have it on your second monitor, have Storyline on your main monitor, and just go through the process of learning.
Right. I can pull it up on some device and have it, I can mark things and search things in a way that paper doesn't allow me to do.
So Stephanie, you said you might be able to share some of the work you've done.
Oh,
Well, what I was going to do, and we'll see if it comes up here, so we'll give that a whirl. But my idea following this show is to create I haven't been as active on Screener because I've been quite busy with the projects in the book, but I'm going to be doing a masterclass series on Screener over the next 2 weeks. And what I'm going to do is break down some of the projects that I worked on this year, and particularly some of the cool components of those projects, and explain how those were built and leave people with a template to add to their library of interactions.
Great.
So that can be shared out. But it's actually showing how far you can push Storyline, really. It's amazing what you're able to do with the tool. So as I say that, I'm just going to try to load up one of them, and I'll just get it rolling on my screen here first.
And then I think you'll probably have to move it over to, when you share your screen, you'll probably have to move it over the one you're at. I'm not sure if Windows allows you to share either or.
Okay, let's just see.
Windows 8 doesn't quite work the same as Windows 7. But I like Windows 8.
Yes. Yeah, actually I do too. It's faster for most everything it does. So I'm finding no problems with it at all. A little quirky, but I don't really work in the Windows 8 interface.
No, I do it for searching. If I want to search for something, I'll quickly go to Windows 8 and start typing, and it's pretty accurate. But it is faster. At least it boots up almost, not quite, but almost as quickly as Mac.
Okay, so Rick, I have one of the screens up. So
at this point in Skype, you just go into share your screen. I know that's what it is. You call it charms. You bring up your charms, and I think there's a share your screen charm or something like that.
Fancy, very fancy.
Yes.
Charms, gems.
Charms, gems. I call them gems. It's charms. Lucky charms. If they work, they're lucky.
Okay, I'm still trying to find it. I'm just kind of in the older interface of Skype right now.
On the older, I think you go up on the menu, and I think there's a share your screen option. I forgot exactly where it was.
I'm on a Mac, so no help to you.
compact view, tools.
I think it's under tools, isn't it? Share your screen.
Perhaps. No, actually, it doesn't show it.
No, not there. Okay, maybe it's
I
the
think
next
it's
one
funny.
to the left of that. And I don't remember because I'm on the Mac Skype right now on those little minis, so I haven't used the Windows one in a while.
Oh, there it is. It's under Call Share Screens.
Call share screens. That's it.
Oh, yes.
So as soon as we see your screen, we'll switch back to you.
It says it's checking my subscription. Then it says cannot check the subscription.
Cannot check. Does it let you do a free trial?
Well, I actually have
Oh,
a
yeah.
premium
Oh,
subscription.
you do. So you should have
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I know it lets you, even in the free one. Anybody in the chat room want to help us out with this high-level tech?
Stop my video. Yeah, you would say share screens seems like that's the right thing. Oh, something happened there.
Leave us a
Now, is it by chance? There it goes.
Yeah,
Hey,
do you
there we
guys-
go. We can see your screen.
Okay, so I'm just gonna close this
Oh, there you
down.
go.
Guess I'm gonna have to come back to over here. So I don't know if you can hear the audio from the screen.
No.
Oh, no, not from the screen, just from your microphone.
So what you see here, this is the beginning of a corporate responsibility module. And this animation effect, it's a bit of an explainer video, but this whole animation was done in PowerPoint and then brought into Storyline as an MP4 file. And people just goes along here. Can you still see it?
Yes.
Yes, okay. I'm just going to skip ahead.
I'm seeing a Skype screen.
You're seeing a Skype screen?
Yeah, saying you need Skype Premium to make group video calls is what's showing.
For video. Oh. Do you have two monitors?
I don't.
Oh, you don't? Okay. So it is showing what you've got. I think it's behind this screen, behind the Skype part, maybe.
Is it, are these items that are out on your website? Adam Weisblatt just joined us and said you did a great job on the examples on your website.
Oh, good. That's great.
Yeah,
So I
it's
have-
Skype saying you don't get to play this game. Isn't that weird?
Good old Skype. So for some odd reason, Skype doesn't look like it's cooperating.
Yeah, well, that's okay. We'll have
That's
to-
too bad. Okay, well, should I just close that
Let's
down?
bring you on back then, I guess.
Okay.
Sometimes it works. Sometimes, and it could be something in Windows 8 is just saying, no, I don't like it this way.
Okay. Well,
Though
I
it
don't know
shouldn't.
how to.
Would-
It seemed like it actually stopped using it. It like kicked itself out.
No, you're in. Do you see your Skype? If you do an Alt tab, do you see it going back to Skype?
Look at all these things open. Yeah, well, there's your Skype, yeah, the main Skype window, and I can see the picture-in-picture shows my desktop.
Right, right. So go back to that menu and just say quit sharing. I think that's what it is, or stop sharing.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Then
How's that?
Can you just close that window that's sitting in front? You can't see it, the Skype window. Rick, maybe it's on your end.
No, not on my end.
You need Skype Premium is what it's saying.
Yeah, no, that's on her end. I think.
I got nothing to tell you.
Actually, now I'm wondering. You know what? I
It's
think
gotta be at
you're
your
right. It
end.
was on our end. That never happened
Yeah.
before. I thought that was on her end. Oh, you know what? You want to try sharing your screen again?
Sure. Well, let me, I'll have to call up my little app here.
I
I'm
think
the
it
least
was.
techie
that-
person on this call, and
though-
I figured it out.
Yeah, my concern is now it's saying that maybe no, I have a premium account, so I don't know why it would do that.
Yep, we're seeing Stephanie's screen now, so
Yeah.
if you just toggle to your example, we should be good to go. Oh, Adam agrees
There
it was
we
on
go.
you. I didn't even see that, Adam.
There we go.
Okay. Okay, so as I was saying before, so this little piece as it starts up is a animation created in PowerPoint. And then I was just trying to explain the key concepts of what was important to the client within a couple minutes of starting, and then they go into the actual learning. So it's kind of a neat kind of graphic and very simple way. And I got all these graphics from commoncraft.com. They have them there, so I didn't have to spend any time building the graphics themselves. And then I'm just going to turn the volume down. So then the module comes up, and you can see the interface here, again, all done in Storyline, a custom interface. So the navigation, quasi-navigation is on the left-hand side. And then there's custom, as to your point earlier, Rick, about the go back buttons. I've had to customize those back buttons throughout the entire project.
I know, that's the only pain. Yep.
Yeah, to make it do what I wanted it to do. But in any case, as people go through and learn about what this is, like, for example, it comes up and tells them a little bit about the policies that they're going to be reading. And when they do that, it gives you a little check mark, so it knows. And this is why I love triggers and variables, because it knows what the person has done logically. And based on that, it will allow the user to do other things. Now I've got a little secret button that sets everything as basically being done, so that I can show you that all this stuff on the left-hand side, the way I organize this module, is all kind of supplemental information, except for the elevator. All the learning happens in the elevator. So if you go to the elevator, it comes up, and basically there's a little background tune, an elevator tune playing, and prompting the user to punch a number on the elevator. So if I go to number 1, it thinks about that a little bit, and the elevator changes, takes you to the first floor, kind of zooms you into that, and then you land on the first floor. So the navigation is based on this elevator metaphor, so that people are able to go in any order that they want to. Basically, there's 6 topics to learn. These are the topics. You work through each of the topics, and then you go back to the elevator once you're done.
You know, that reminds me of the elevator operator that got fired from his job. Couldn't memorize the route.
But
Da-dunk.
Yeah, you need that little sound effect. So I'm just going to.
The idea for using the elevator, that's great.
So this is my client is Bon Secours, a big healthcare system on the eastern seaboard of the U.S. This is one feature of this is that you can go in, and as a student you can type your thoughts about. It asks you a question, wants to know your thoughts, and then it actually brings forward what you had typed and reinforces that. There's audio going on here, and then reinforces it with additional information.
That's cool. It's a clever concept.
Yeah. I have questions when you're ready for them. So,
well, we're running out of time, so let's ask questions.
Okay. So somebody, Laura wants to know, how did you do the zooming? And you said you created that in PowerPoint, right? And then exported that as a MP4, the zoom in?
Oh, no, the zoom in is just a feature in Storyline. It has the zoom control right as a button on the Storyline menu. So I just put a zoom box or whatever it is right on the slide where I wanted it to come in and come out. So that's built right within Storyline for the elevator portion, where it's kind of zooming into the elevator and zooming out. Right. Built in. Yeah, it's a built-in tool. Okay, and then this may be a longer question, but Adam wants to know, are the triggers in action in Storyline better, different, or the same as the related features in Captivate? Do you have any experience that you could give us a little comparison? Well, no, I would say that I'm not a Captivate expert, so I have a lot of experience in that. They are more limited, but they're way easier to use, and they work better in Storyline. Captivate has with advanced actions, you can do some pretty good stuff, but it doesn't, there's just a lot of bugs in some of it, though in the version 7, it's a lot cleaner than it used to be. But you can use triggers easily in Storyline, and you don't have to really go into a semi-programming mode or semi-scripting mode. So it's, in that respect, they're just different. I wouldn't say they're better or worse, they're different. I'd like to see more triggers. And the language you use is a little bit different. They're called different things. Right. But I mean, there are things you can do so easily in Storyline that would take quite a bit of advanced actioning to do in Captivate. So from that point of view, I just want more triggers versus, easier or harder triggers. I mean, just, more capabilities in triggers.
They're pretty easy to do. I know that.
Yeah.
I haven't tried the Zoom, so I'll have to look at that today.
So you got all of these graphics from Common Craft, you said?
No, just the original graphics were
Okay.
that little movie that cycled at the beginning.
Okay.
But all of these graphics are just graphics that I have. You can see that the people I've placed in this scene are people from storyline, the characters that are built in. And then I just find objects from here and there. And a lot of the editing is done in PowerPoint, believe it or not, because the blending doesn't have to be absolutely perfect for a lot of the e-learning that I'm doing. It's not, I don't need to go to the extent to do very, very proper shadows and proper blends in Photoshop. Sometimes I have to, but mostly not. So you can, and I think that if you have a really great background graphic, it deals with 90% of your graphic issues right there. If
True.
you can, set up a really nice background, then you're just adding a few things on top of it and making it a lot easier to work with, or a lot easier to build from a design point of view.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, thanks. And then one of the other things on here is that when you go to My Notes, if you've typed anything, it records all the notes that you may have typed, been prompted to type. You can also type some additional notes, and then you can email or print those notes. So it's a good way for students to collect their thoughts as they go, add some additional ideas, and then just email it to themselves.
That's
I
great.
love that idea. Our LMS doesn't support it right now, but hopefully our new one, when we get it, does, because that is the key to all of this and making in quotes e-learning and digital delivery, learner-centric. I think is them being able to bookmark and make their own notes for themselves in the tool.
Well, Stephanie, why don't we bring you back, as we are just about
Okay.
out of time,
I'll just say stop sharing here.
because otherwise we can go on for hours, I'm sure.
I hope we can.
Oh
sometime.
boy, we can. We have. But like Dawn said, this isn't our job, so we've got to get back to work soon.
Yeah,
There's that.
and as I said earlier, I will be doing a master class on some
That's
of the key
great.
features of what you've seen on that project, but also a CBC video editing project and another cool project. So I'm going to
Okay.
share some of that out with the community.
You might want to turn your video back on. I think it's only your picture right now.
Yeah. So how do we find
Yeah.
out about that? It'll be linked in the Heroes community.
Yeah, I'll put
That's
it out
where
in the
we'll see
Heroes
them.
community. I'll tweet it out too. As the screeners become available, that's typically what I do. I tweet it out, and the people that follow me on Twitter get that information. But I'll also be featured in an upcoming blog post right on our Articulate's site, so I'll be mentioning it there as well.
Well, Stephanie, I've got 3 go-to people that actually 4, but one of them's not really doing that anymore. You were one of the first I've ever seen when I started getting into Articulate presenter. I was watching all of your screeners. I think Dave Anderson, Tom Coleman, and Jeanette Brooks. You were the go-to people. Always good stuff.
Yeah.
So if you have any questions on either Articulate Presenter or Articulate Storyline, go take a look at screeners, YouTube. Search for Stephanie Harnett. She's got some great tips, advice, and especially if you want to learn PowerPoint better. Lots of good advice on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
So-
kind of equivocal back and forth. Your
It is.
Twitter handle is SLHICE. Did I spell it right?
Yeah, it's kind of like Schleiss.
Slice.
Okay. So that everybody can follow you and be sure to catch those updates on when your master classes are being shown.
Yeah, you bet.
Well, Stephanie, it's been a real pleasure having you on today, and hope to have you on again in the near future. We can go more into detail on some of this stuff, and oh, by the way, if you ever want to send us some screeners or videos, we will put them on as little add-ons to the shows we do.
Oh, okay.
So, like next broadcast, you have something, we'll put a little, no more than 5 minutes, but we're going to add some screeners and stuff for people. And any of you out there, if you want to send us some samples of what you've done, please do so. And it'll be fun. We're going to start highlighting and showing what other people have done, just so people get a little bit of motivation, a little bit of inspiration out there of what you can do.
Exactly. That's great. And I thank you very much for inviting me to be on the show today. It's been fun. It went too quick, but it's been
It
fun.
did go quickly. We've been going for about 45 minutes already. So that was fun. And for all you guys in the chat room, thanks for being there. And if you're watching the recording, please subscribe, and we'll see you next week. Dawn, Stephanie, have a great one, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone.